The NFL is packed with unforgettable moments, but not all of them are the good kind. From brutal injuries to jaw-dropping off-field drama, these stories show the darker side of football. And trust me, number one is a nightmare you won't forget. Football's supposed to have rules to protect quarterbacks, right? Well, Trevor Lawrence found out that safe doesn't always apply. In a heated game against the Texans, Lawrence slid to end a scramble. Pretty routine stuff. When linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair came flying in with a late hit that laid him out. Flags flew. Lawrence stayed down, and the chaos was instant. Both teams went at it, with players throwing punches and shoving like it was an undercard fight. Al-Shaair got ejected faster than you can say personal foul. It was a moment that made you question if safe and football even mix. You'd think coaching would be the safest spot in football, right? Not for Sean McVay. During a game against the 49ers, the Rams head coach got a little too close to the action. Tight end Roger Carter Jr. came sprinting onto the field and accidentally clocked McVay with his helmet right in the jaw. His headset went flying, and McVay looked like he'd just taken a hit from a linebacker. Turns out even the sidelines can get dangerous in the NFL, especially if you're not paying attention. Pre-game intros are supposed to fire up the crowd, but the Titans' fire machines took that a little too literally. During player introductions, the Flames went rogue, shooting way higher and closer than anyone expected. Smoke filled the air. Staff and players scrambled like it was a fire drill, and fans stared in disbelief, wondering if Nissan Stadium was about to make history as a bonfire. Thankfully, no one got hurt, but you can bet the pregame crew got a pretty intense team meeting after nearly turning hype into havoc. Eric Berry was fearless on the field, tackling receivers and shutting down offenses like a boss. But off the field, horses had him running the other way. Yep, during a Chiefs pregame, Berry spotted Warpaint, the team's horse mascot, and immediately tapped out. "She's gotta go," he said, backing away like it was a linebacker blitz. The funny part? He played for the Chiefs, where Warpaint was practically part of the starting lineup. It just goes to show, even the toughest guys have something they'd rather not face. During the Chiefs' 30-27 win over the Panthers on November 24, 2024, the NFL action took an unexpected turn. As players headed to the locker room at Bank of America Stadium, a young football fan leaned too far over the railing, lost his balance, and tumbled headfirst toward the field. That's when Chiefs defensive tackle Tershawn Wharton showed lightning-fast reflexes, catching the boy midair and preventing what could have been a serious injury. The stadium buzzed with shock and relief, proving once again that the NFL is full of heroes, not just on the field, but off it too. Coaching in the NFL is stressful, but Gary Kubiak experienced the ultimate scare during a Texans-Colts game in 2013. As the teams headed to the locker room for halftime, Kubiak suddenly collapsed on the sideline. The stadium fell silent as players froze and medical staff rushed in. It was later revealed he'd suffered a mini-stroke, showing that even coaches aren't immune to the intense grind of football. Thankfully, Kubiak made a full recovery, but Texans fans were left rattled, holding their breath longer than during any last-minute game-winning drive. Bengals cornerback Mike Hilton proved he's not just quick on the field. He's got some sneaky moves off of it, too. Right before Halloween, Hilton dressed in full uniform and stood perfectly still in the locker room, pretending to be a mannequin. As teammates and coaches walked by, he suddenly sprang to life, scaring the daylights out of them. Even Joe Burrow wasn't safe from Hilton's prank, with his startled reaction becoming a team favorite. Amid the grind of the NFL season, Hilton's antics brought some much-needed laughs and proved that football isn't all about tackles and touchdowns. It's about teamwork and fun, too. Football is brutal, but Rashad Johnson's injury might just take the cake. In 2013, during a game against the Saints, the Cardinals safety came off the field after a punt return and casually took off his glove, only to realize part of his finger was missing. Yep, the tip of his middle finger was still inside the glove. Did he call it a day? Nope. Johnson shrugged it off, finished the game, and became an instant NFL legend. Turns out he didn't just lose part of his finger, he gained one of the wildest stories in football history. Austin Collie was a rising star for the Colts, catching passes from Peyton Manning like it was second nature. But in 2010, his career took a devastating turn. During a game against the Eagles, Collie caught a pass over the middle and was leveled by two defenders in a brutal helmet-to-helmet collision. He went down, motionless, as the stadium fell silent. Though he tried to return, more concussions quickly followed, cutting his NFL dreams short. Collie's story became a sobering example of football's risks and pushed the league to take concussions and player safety more seriously than ever. The NFL is all about grit, but the 1967 championship game, also known as the Ice Bowl, redefined toughness. This is where the frozen tundra got its name. Lambeau Field was an Arctic battlefield at minus 13 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind chills plunging to a bone-chilling minus 48 degrees. Players couldn't feel their fingers, cleats froze to the field, and referees' whistles stuck to their lips. Frostbite wasn't just a risk, it was almost a guarantee. Even in these brutal conditions, the Packers sealed a legendary 21-17 win over the Cowboys with a last-minute quarterback sneak. It remains one of the most iconic games in football history, and a nightmare for anyone who hates the cold. NFL fans are passionate, but Chiefs superfan Xavier Bobudar, better known as Chiefsaholic, took things way too far. Decked out in his signature wolf costume, he was a staple at Kansas City games, hyping up the crowd like a true diehard. But what no one knew? Bobudar was funding his fandom by robbing banks. Yep, over 7 states. He swiped nearly $850,000 before getting caught in December 2022 during a heist gone wrong. Chiefsaholic traded the stadium stands for a prison cell, earning a 17-year sentence. Turns out, not all heroes wear capes. Some wear handcuffs. NFL players are known for toughness, but David Njoku redefined it. In September 2023, while lighting a fire pit at home, the Browns tight end suffered severe burns to his face and arm. Most of us would be recovering at home. But Njoku, he walked into the stadium like Michael Myers from Halloween, burns and all, and then played a game against the Ravens wearing a protective mask. He caught 6 passes like nothing happened. Afterward, he revealed his injuries and even launched a clothing line to support burn victims. Ricardo Lockett gave everything he had on the field, but in 2015, one play changed his life forever. During a game against the Cowboys, Lockett sprinted downfield on punt coverage when Dallas safety Jeff Heath delivered a devastating hit. Lockett collapsed and didn't move, leaving the stadium in stunned silence. Trainers rushed to his side as fans watched anxiously. He was carted off and later underwent neck surgery, which ended his time in the NFL. It's a sobering example of how quickly the game can take away everything, even from the toughest and most determined players. Training camp fights happen all the time, but what Bill Romanowski did in 2003 was unforgettable, and not in a good way. During a Raiders practice, he ripped off teammate Marcus Williams' helmet and punched him so hard it fractured his eye socket, ending his shot at playing in the NFL. Romanowski later admitted it was a classless move and said he regretted it. Williams sued and won $340,000 in damages, but his football future was over. It's a stark example of how practice can turn into something much worse when emotions run wild. In January 2000, Ray Lewis was on top of the world. Super Bowl parties, NFL fame, and a spot as one of the league's brightest stars. But that all changed after a fight broke out at an Atlanta party, leaving 2 men, Jacinth Baker and Richard Lawler, fatally stabbed. Lewis and 2 friends were charged with murder, a case that sent shockwaves through the NFL. After weeks in court, Lewis pled guilty to obstruction of justice and testified against his co-defendants, who were acquitted. While Lewis went on to a Hall of Fame career, this dark chapter remains part of his complicated legacy. Chris Henry was a standout wide receiver for the Bengals, known for his big plays and limitless potential. But on December 17, 2009, his life was tragically cut short. During a domestic dispute with his fiancée in Charlotte, North Carolina, Henry fell from the back of a moving pickup truck. The injuries he sustained were fatal, leaving the NFL world in shock. Later, it was revealed that Henry had CTE, a degenerative brain condition tied to repeated head trauma. His death at just 26 highlighted the immense risk players face, both during their careers and long after the game ends. In 1997, Lions linebacker Reggie Brown experienced one of the most terrifying moments in NFL history during a game against the Jets. After an awkward collision while making a tackle, Brown collapsed on the field and stopped breathing, leaving fans and players in stunned silence. Medical staff rushed in and performed CPR right there on the field, saving his life in front of a packed stadium. Though Brown's football career ended that day, the quick reactions of the medical team made sure his story didn't end there. It was a reminder of the life or death stakes that sometimes come with the game. In 2017, Zach Miller of the Chicago Bears went up for what looked like a routine touchdown catch against the Saints. But instead of celebrating 6 points, Miller faced a nightmare. As he landed, his knee bent in a way knees just aren't supposed to bend, dislocating and tearing his popliteal artery. The injury was so severe that doctors were more focused on saving his leg than his future in football. Thankfully, emergency surgery restored blood flow, and Miller's leg was saved. His time on the field ended that day, but the grit he showed during recovery proved he wasn't just tough, he was next-level tough. November 14, 2019 gave us one of the most chaotic moments in NFL history. In the final seconds of a heated Browns-Steelers game, Myles Garrett tackled Mason Rudolph. But things didn't end there. Garrett ripped off Rudolph's helmet and, in a shocking move, swung it at his unprotected head. The field erupted into chaos as players rushed in, turning the game into an all-out brawl. Garrett was suspended for the rest of the season, and the incident left everyone in the NFL debating on how far emotions can go before they cross the line. In August 2005, Hurricane Katrina brought devastation to New Orleans, turning the Superdome, a symbol of NFL glory, into a shelter of last resort for over 20,000 evacuees. With a leaking roof, no air conditioning, and limited supplies, the scene inside was chaotic and heartbreaking. Yet amidst the darkness, humanity shone through as strangers came together, sharing what little they had and lifting each other up. When the Saints returned to a repaired Superdome in 2006, it wasn't just a football game. It was a symbol of resilience. Steve Gleason's iconic punt block and the roaring crowd proved that football could reunite and energize a city that refused to give up. The NFL's darkest moments remind us that football is more than a game. It's raw, unpredictable, and deeply human. Through tragedy and triumph, it's these stories that define American football and the resilience of those who play it.